where silence became a signature. Some hotels impressed with grandeur, others with innovation. But this one, hidden deep within a remote northern forest, became iconic for something far more elusive. Silence. Not the absence of sound, but a silence so profound it felt shaped, curated, almost crafted. Guests described it as a place where the world seemed to exhale, where even thoughts arrived more slowly. The vision began with a designer who believed the modern world was drowning in noise. Cities hummed with engines and electricity. Even remote retreats carried the hum of generators or the distant murmur of civilization. He imagined a sanctuary where silence wasn't accidental. It was intentional, a space where travelers could hear their own breath, their own heartbeat, their own unguarded thoughts. To understand why this hotel matters, we must go back to the day the designer first stepped into the chosen forest. Snow absorbed every footstep. Trees stood in cathedral-like stillness. Air drifted with such softness it felt unreal. The silence wasn't emptiness. It was presence. He knew instantly that this was where his vision belonged. The early designs embraced restraint. Minimal structures nestled between trees. Cabins elevated on subtle supports to avoid disturbing the forest floor. Corridors shaped to dampen sound rather than echo it. Every decision focused on preserving the quiet, protecting the way other architects might protect historical artifacts. But silence is fragile. Even the smallest intrusion can unravel it. The first challenge surfaced during material testing. Metal groaned under the cold, producing faint chimes that carried unervingly far. Wood expanded with subtle pops as temperatures shifted. Even the softest insulation betrayed hushed cracking noises at dawn. The forest amplified everything. The team realized they weren't just building quietly. They were building inside an amplifier. Then came the second challenge. Heat. Traditional heating systems hummed. Pipes ticked. Radiators hissed. Even the softest technologies introduced sounds that clashed with the sanctuary's purpose. The designer refused to compromise. He declared that if silence could not be preserved, the hotel did not deserve to open. Engineers grew uneasy. Investors questioned feasibility. Yet the forest itself seemed to support the vision. On windless days, the trees acted as acoustic guardians, absorbing sound in ways no human-made material could replicate. The team believed the solution existed. They just hadn't found it yet. The breakthrough came during a winter walk, when a frost-heavy branch snapped under its own weight. The sound echoed, but the forest swallowed it instantly, dispersing through layers of snow and bark. That moment shifted the project's direction. They realized silence did not come from eliminating sound entirely, but from guiding it, shaping it, letting the land absorb what the structure could not. The design evolved. Walls were layered with materials inspired by the forest itself. Natural fibers, porous minerals, patterns that disrupted sound waves. Heating was rerouted underground, traveling in silent circuits warmed by geothermal gradient. Even ventilation mimicked the slow inhalation of the trees, moving air gently, imperceptibly. But as the hotel took shape, a new paradox emerged. The forest, once serene and predictable, began revealing its own sounds. Sound the team hadn't noticed before. Ice expanding underground, distant animal calls at night, branches shifting with soft crackles. The silence the designer sought wasn't the forest's natural state. It was his interpretation of it. The deeper the project grew, the clearer it became that silence wasn't a resource. It was a relationship. And soon, that relationship would be tested by forces none of them were prepared for. The deeper the project sank into the forest, the more elusive silence became. What once felt like a natural companion now revealed itself as a shifting presence, one that changed with temperature, season, and even the movement of the construction team itself. The forest was not a static sanctuary. It was alive, breathing, responding. As the cabins neared completion, the first major conflict emerged. Their elevated supports, designed to protect the forest floor, vibrated faintly at night as temperatures fell. The vibration was subtle, imperceptible in cities, but here it traveled through quiet like a distant pulse. Guests would feel it. Worse, they would hear it. The designers saw this as a betrayal of the vision. Engineers saw it as physics behaving exactly as expected. And then there was the wind. During early trials, a mild breeze slipped through the trees, brushing across the structures with a whisper so soft it should have gone unnoticed. But the cabins captured it, amplifying it into a low, eerie hum. The forest had always been silent because it absorbed movement, but the new structures created surfaces the silence could not control. The hotel had unintentionally built its own soundtrack. Tension within the team rose sharply. The designer argued the cabins must be re-engineered to eliminate resonance entirely. Engineers countered that any structure interacting with open air would produce some sound. Investors, listening to both sides, grew anxious. The promise of absolute silence had become a burden none could ignore. To study the problem, the team spent a night inside one of the cabins during a soft snowfall. The heater was silent, the ventilation barely perceptible, yet the cabin produced sounds no one expected. A tiny settling creak, the subtle expansion of wood, a faint ring when snowflakes hit the glass at certain angles. These were natural sounds, harmless in any other place. Here, they felt like thunder. The forest revealed a truth that unsettled them. In stillness, even the smallest sound becomes enormous. The second wave of conflict came from the forest itself. As winter deepened, the trees began to shift under the weight of ice. Their trunks creaked, branches stretched and cracked, roots expanded. The silence the designer adored was seasonal, not permanent. The forest had a voice, soft, ancient, and unpredictable. Trying to silence it would be an act of erasure. Yet the project could not ignore the reality that guests expected a specific experience, a curated stillness, a quiet so profound it shaped their inner world. And so, the team began exploring ways to mask or redirect unavoidable noise. Acoustic engineers added layered baffles beneath the cabins. Artisans introduced woven panels crafted from forest fibers that dispersed sound rather than blocking it. These additions helped, but not enough. At certain hours, the silence still fractured. But the greatest crisis surfaced when they activated the geothermal heating system for the first time. It had been designed for silence, with underground channels carrying warmth without mechanical noise. But once heated, the earth released slow, deep pops as ice shifted above it. Sounds that traveled into the cabins like distant knocks. The designer felt his vision slipping away. His sanctuary of stillness was becoming a mosaic of imperfections. The silence he dreamed of was not the silence the forest offered. As pressure mounted, doubt spread. Was the idea itself flawed? Had he misread the land? Had he attempted to shape an experience that nature could never provide? One night, unable to sleep, he walked through the unfinished clearing and stood beneath the tallest pines. Snow drifted between branches. Breath fogged the air. And for a moment, he heard something new, a silence that wasn't absolute, but textured, layered, alive, a silence shaped not by the absence of sound, but by the presence of harmony. The realization hit him with quiet force. The hotel was trying to create the wrong kind of silence, and that insight would change everything, pushing the project toward its most difficult, transformative decision yet. The revelation settled into the designer, slowly, like snow collecting on branches. He had been chasing a silence that did not belong to this forest, a silence of emptiness, of erasure, of stillness without life. But the forest did not offer that kind of quiet. Its silence was textured, layered with subtle movement, shaped by breath, growth, and age. To force the forest into unnatural stillness would mean building against it, not with it. Armed with this realization, he returned to the team the next morning. But clarity for one became conflict for many. Engineers questioned what textured silence meant in practical terms. Investors worried the concept sounded poetic but unmarketable. Even the artisans, who felt the forest's rhythms intimately, hesitated. They feared that abandoning the quest for absolute quiet meant compromising the sanctuary's identity. Tension grew thicker than the winter air. Several cabins were already complete, and their flaws felt more visible than ever. The supports vibrated at dusk. The wind hummed through narrow gaps. The geothermal shifts knocked on the walls like distant footsteps. All of these were failures if measured by the original vision, and yet the forest around them seemed unbothered, continuing its own soft symphony. The emotional peak intensified when a near disaster struck. During an especially cold night, the snow around one cabin compacted unevenly. The shifting weight pressed against the elevated supports, creating a faint but continuous resonance. Inside, the sound echoed like a heartbeat. A worker sleeping nearby woke an alarm, believing the structure might collapse. It didn't, the supports held, but the incident stirred fear throughout the team. If silence could not be controlled, what guarantee did the hotel have of offering the sanctuary guests expected? Debates erupted, some urged reinforcing every structure with heavy, vibration-proof materials. Others argued the cabin should be relocated entirely, deeper into denser parts of the forest. A few suggested abandoning the project's original ethos and embracing a more conventional approach. But the designer knew none of these choices honored the forest or the truth the land had revealed. Still, doubt clawed at him. Had he misled everyone? Had his vision been naive? Were they too deep into the project to turn back, and too far from success to move forward? The turning point came during a storm, not of snow, but of silence itself. One afternoon, a heavy fog rolled through the forest. Visibility dropped to almost nothing. The team paused instruction and waited. As the fog thickened, the entire forest seemed to shift into a different state. Every sound softened. Every motion slowed. Even the wind grew muted, barely brushing the treetops. And then, as if on cue, the cabins changed. The wooden beams stopped popping. The supports fell quiet. The airflow through the structures softened into a gentle exhale. The geothermal warmth spread without the faint knocking they had battled for weeks. For a few minutes, the cabins experienced the most perfect silence they had ever produced. Not through engineering, but through alignment with the forest's natural rhythm. It was then the designer understood the truth. Silence could not be engineered into the land. It had to be invited. The structures had to breathe with the forest, matching its cycles, its temperature shifts, its humidity changes, its living pulse. The solution would not come from defeating noise, but from synchronizing with it. This marked the emotional turning point for everyone involved. The team began to embrace the idea that silence wasn't a lack. It was a relationship, a conversation, a signature written by nature, not imposed by humans. As they prepared for final transformation, a sense of unity returned. The forest was no longer a challenge to overcome, but a partner to follow. And now, with renewed understanding, they stepped toward the climax, redefining silence itself, not as an absolute, but as an experience shaped by harmony between architecture and the living world. The transformation began with a single decision. The hotel would no longer chase silence as emptiness. Instead, it would shape silence as harmony, aligning every structure with the forest's living rhythm. It was a bold shift, one that required releasing old assumptions and embracing the land's quiet intelligence. The cabins were the first to change. Their rigid supports were replaced with flexible, root-inspired bases that adjusted softly to the shifting soil. Instead of fighting the forest movement, the cabins now swayed with it, absorbing vibrations before they could become audible. The unsettling hum disappeared. The nighttime tremors faded into nothing. Next came the materials. Engineers and artisans worked side by side to redesign walls using layered natural fibers that resonated with the forest acoustics. Rather than blocking sound, they diffused it, dispersing small creaks and subtle airflow into the kind of soft ambience the trees themselves created. The forest became the acoustic blueprint. Heating and ventilation systems were recalibrated to operate within the forest's natural temperature cycles. By mirroring the subtle rise and fall of the land's warmth, the geothermal system stopped producing the sharp knocks that had once haunted the cabins. Even the airflow shifted into something nearly imperceptible, modeled after the gentle drift of wind through pine needles. But the true climax arrived during the final test, when the designer invited the entire team to walk the forest path at midnight. The snow had settled into a quiet blanket. The air was cold but still. As the group approached the cabins, they listened, not for noise, but for harmony. And what they heard was extraordinary. Nothing, not the brittle crack of settling timber, not the hum of wind caught in structural edges, not the distant echo of heating systems or shifting soil. The cabin stood in seamless alignment with the forest silence, absorbing its rhythm, offering serenity without imposing stillness. The designer felt emotion rise in his chest. Not triumph, something gentler. A recognition that the sanctuary was not built through force, but through humility, through listening, through surrendering the idea that silence must be crafted, when in truth, it must be learned. When the hotel opened, guests described an experience unlike anything they had known. They spoke of a silence that felt alive, one that calmed the mind, slowed the breath, and made every moment feel suspended in snow and time. Some said they could hear their heartbeat for the first time in years. Others heard memories. Others heard nothing at all, and found peace in that emptiness. The hotel became a haven for those seeking clarity, reflection, or healing. Its silence was not the silence of absence, but the silence of presence, a signature the forest had written long before the first cabin was built. And that is a legacy of the place where silence became a signature, a reminder that harmony is not created through control, but through alignment, that the world speaks in whispers, if we are willing to listen, and that the spaces we build can hold not only our bodies, but our deepest quiet. Subscribe to join the journey.